welcome, guys. I'm so excited about today. Welcome to another interview during the Suicide Prevention Month. And we have someone different today, which is so exciting because I just want to explain. I followed her on Instagram. I don't know if she followed me first or I followed her first or what happened. And I actually didn't think she was going to agree to this interview or this conversation, and I'm so excited to actually agree to it. I'm great. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. So well. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me to this conversation.
Thank you for accepting. I'm actually so excited to finally experience you because it's just been from post to post. And I'm excited about this one. How's your day going so far?
Very chilled. Yeah, I tend to try and maintain a very chill Monday. It's
Okay.
something I try hard to do.
Okay. No,
How's your
great.
day going?
Mine is also quite relaxed. My Mondays are never really that busy. Monday and Tuesday, I don't keep them that busy. The rest of the week, I'll go crazy. But yeah, my Monday and Tuesday, I try to ease into the week nicely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so good so far. But yeah, okay. Getting right into it because I actually have no idea, right? I would like to know, and please just, let everybody else that is listening in know, Rox, what exactly do you do?
Sure, absolutely. I do many things, but I'm a woman's lifestyle coach. So I'm a trained, coach. I'm literally in the midst of completing my professional accreditation. So, and that's the path that I've been following for the last couple of years. But my kind of origin story is that I've been in and have been working in marketing and advertising for over 13 years. So I'm also a marketing consultant, specifically doing marketing strategy. But the way that I kind of the Staple Life offering is really a combination of those two things, right? So the mission with Staple is to help women unlock confidence in their lives, in their careers, and in their businesses by really helping them to tap into the science and the energy of what it means to actually trust ourselves, right? So, one of my biggest, I think, points of action and points of view, and the thing that fuels the why behind why Staple exists is that I feel like as women, particularly, minority women, we've very much been dictated to in terms of what it is that we cannot do, and those narratives really inform the choices that we make, and ultimately the expansion of our lives, right? And it can limit us, or it can make us expansive. And so, yeah, the role of Staple and the purpose of Staple is just to really help women in whatever aspect of their lives, from a lifestyle point of view, from a career point of view, from a business point of view, to start learning how to listen to themselves and to stop allowing the kind of shoulds of culture and society influence what they think they should be capable of and can be capable of.
Okay, that's really interesting. Is there anything specific that happened in your career, or an example that you saw from someone else that made you? Rox is amazing at what she does. Oh, thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Trace.
Thank you, Tracy. Is there anything specific that happened that made you feel like, no, actually, I need to go into women's lifestyle coaching specifically there, as opposed to just saying just a full-on lifestyle coach?
Yeah. So, it really comes down to the fact that I'm a woman, and I'm a woman identifying individual, and the experiences that I have had, growing up and getting into the working world, and trying to find my feet in the corporate world, and particularly in the industry that I was in, I just found that there are still, because it's not gone, it still exists. There's a lot of unconscious limitation that I think is
Okay.
set upon women, and I think particularly women of color, Black and brown women,
Right.
in the workplace. And I think even from a society point of view, depending on, your own personal upbringing, your cultural background, and what you've been exposed to and have experienced in your life. And I think because it's such a lived experience for me, it's almost like, it's like taking the life that I've lived and kind of turning that into the potential to help other people, to help other women, to alchemize that and to change it.
Okay. Okay, no, great. I hear you. Now, going into the mental health side, were you aware of Suicide Prevention Month before I came to you asking you to join me on this?
No,
You were not aware of it.
I was not. Yeah.
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 And what do you think of it so far? Because I also realized that okay, not a lot of people knew about it in South Africa, and then on top of not knowing about it, those who do, I feel like we're not doing much about it, So just the whole thought about Suicide Prevention Month. What's your thoughts and take on it?
Look, to your point, like there hasn't been a lot of conversation that I've been seeing around this topic. I was completely unaware of it until you brought it to my attention. So, and that's, why I'm so thankful to be having this conversation with you, and for inviting me into it and bringing it into my awareness. I believe that the data is there, right? Around the number of suicides across the world. In South Africa, I feel like we don't necessarily have enough information to really shed in order to not shed a light, but in order to gain some critical mass around this conversation. And I think that's really what's lacking is the lack of awareness and the lack of where are the numbers, what is the information, and where are the solutions, right? Where can people go for help? And I don't believe that that's been spoken about enough. I think another kind of thought that I'm having as I'm thinking and having this conversation thinking out loud is I don't believe that we know enough about I suppose the demographics around suicide numbers. And we've been hearing a lot of younger people, this happening with younger people. And I just feel like it feels like a gap, right? It feels like a gap of knowledge in the mental health space that we're not really tapping into enough. And obviously having awareness around it by having a designated week or month to talk about it is the first step. It's only the first step.
Yes, true. Okay. And what I actually really like about it is that it's Suicide Prevention Month, right? Not just suicide awareness. So we're trying to find ways to say, how are we going to get away from the suicidal space, without taking away the fact that really we do have a mental health problem going on. And we're not saying avoid therapy because we've got solutions to suicide. No, we're just saying that while we're still in a good space, let's find solutions and let's find ways to work around it so that we don't step so deep in our mental health space that we actually find suicide to be a solution. Because one of the things that I had realized was that many times when someone commits suicide, people always come with, we saw the signs, we saw the signs, we saw this, we saw that. So it just goes back to, but then, okay, while we're still okay, what can we do so that when the signs are visible, we are able to do something about it, you know? Or if we find ourselves in a place where we feel like we're stepping so far in, we can do
Right.
something about it. So what I'd like to know from you, Rox, is your routine. It can be a weekly, a daily, a monthly, a yearly routine, but like we're trying to pick out things that everybody is doing that is working for them so
Yeah.
that we can implement them in our lives, right? So
Yeah.
what works for you that you do regularly that you find has helped with your mental health?
Yeah, I mean, I love this question, and I love talking about about self-care routines. And when I use the
Yeah,
word self-care, I use it very tentatively because I feel like the culture that we live in is almost like bastardized the word, right? So for me, self-care routines is anything that you are doing to love on yourself, be kind to yourself, and take care of yourself. And that
right.
includes everything, like going to get your nails done to having a daily
Mm-hmm.
practice around your spirituality. The spectrum is
Mm,
wide. So I
right.
think from a personal point of view, the the experience that I've had with routines that work are the ones that what we in the in marketing industry, a lot of people use the term minimal viable, right? So minimum viable,
Okay.
what does that mean? That means the thing that is going to get you the maximum result with minimum friction. And that is what you're looking for in a daily routine,
Mm,
right? Maximum result, minimum friction. So what does that look like?
okay.
Right? First of all, it needs to not cost a lot, because when all
Okay.
of a sudden you're broke ass, you can't do all the things that you were doing when you were taking care of yourself, right? And we don't want our
Right.
self care to be costing us a shit ton of money. So things that I love to do are things that come naturally to me. That's what my minimum viable like routine looks like. Come naturally to me,
Okay.
don't cost a lot of money, and seem like completely effortless, no friction. So I have
Okay.
been keeping a journal and writing in a journal since I was 12 years old. And that is a habit that it is my number one go to habit. I do it every single day, or at least every
Mm-hmm.
other day. And I mean, I can count on my maybe two hands on the days when I haven't journaled daily. Um, so that for me is one thing. And the purpose of what it does for me personally is a couple of things. It allows me to kind of purge thoughts onto a page, get shit out of my head, get out of my own head by putting them on paper. It also then
Right.
allows me to see that on paper, right? Like, oh shit, like this is coming up. Like this is a thought pattern or a feeling routine or a feeling that I've had before, right? Where is
Okay.
that coming from? Maybe I should be a little bit more aware of that. And potentially what are some solutions that can help me, right? So
Mm-hmm.
journaling for me is very much about like holding up a mirror to what's going on in my mind and being able to put that
Mm.
onto a piece of paper so that I can see it and potentially do something about it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think, another daily practice for me, two other things that I feel, are, I don't want to say necessary, because like this is the other thing about routines and self-care, right? Is
Mm.
we shouldn't be imposing our own personal beliefs about what that should look like on people. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, some kind of spiritual reflective practice is really useful. So whatever that looks like for you.
Okay.
For some people, it's daily devotionals. It's reading your spiritual book or scripture of your choice. For others, it's meditation. For others, it's breath work. So engaging in something that feels like you tuning into the less physical part of your well-being, right? The energy part, the spiritual piece,
Right.
whatever you want to call that,
Right.
energy, vibe, spirit, that piece, right? Um, if that is something that you believe and it forms part of your core like value system.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third thing is movement. And I don't like to use the word exercise because exercise feels like we should all be doing HIIT every single day or taking a run every single day. And that's just not
Yeah.
always possible. And it's not always
Yes.
what we might want to do, right? So for me, again, minimum viable looks like a morning stretch, doesn't even have to be more than 20
Okay.
minutes. Whether it's an actual formal yoga practice or just like sitting on my yoga mat on the floor and like stretching my lower back and stretching my legs and just like feeling into my body for the day. Those are the things that help me feel calm, right? They
Mm-hmm.
help me to get back in touch with where I am in this moment, right?
Mm.
I like to do them in the morning so that there's very little interference from the rest of the day, right? So
Mm-hmm.
all I'm focusing on as I am, as I'm doing my morning routine is focusing on me and the way that I want to feel and what I am able to bring to the table that day, as opposed to needing to be thinking about what everybody else wants from me already.
Okay.
Yeah, and those and they hit on three, very important pieces for me. So it's the mental, it's the spiritual, and it's the physical. And if, I believe that if we can all find some practice around those three things, if they form part of our core value system, it goes a long way in kind of bringing us to a more holistic state of feeling good and feeling well.
Mm. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. Because that really, like, you're right. It touches on everything. Spirituality, movement. I actually like you saying movement than moving
Right?
than exercise. That's really encouraging. Because I also think that sometimes when we're doing the exercise part, we put so much pressure on ourselves that we feel like if I didn't do something that is making me sweat and struggle to breathe and fall apart, then I probably didn't do enough, because according to
Right.
what things look like on Instagram, is that
Right.
you need to be breaking, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, so just to
And
hear that movement is actually good enough. And the funny thing is, okay, well, not funny, but like the other thing is with mental health, when you are really in your deep space, you struggle to make that movement. Now, imagine having to say you need to exercise heavily on top of actually struggling to just get out of bed, when
yes.
we could just say, just move. And then you know that, okay, that means just stretching my body is actually going to be good enough for
Yes.
this moment.
Yes.
Meditating, getting into my spirituality, whatever is going to be good enough for this moment. That is really helpful. I think we need the more simple steps into helping our mental health more than the complicated stuff, because the
Exactly.
complicated stuff to do so, but yeah, I also really love you saying that doing something that doesn't cost you much, that doesn't take much from you, because really we think that self-care is supposed to be expensive, so I need to get to a certain financial bracket before I can start taking my self-care seriously, and then
Right.
I'll get to that financial space and my self-care will be ridiculous, which means that 2 months down the line, if I cannot handle it, then I'm just not going to self-care at all, because I can't buy that specific face scrub
That's
and
exactly it.
you know
That's
yeah,
exactly it,
so
Mbali. And that for me, like I feel so strongly about just everything you've touched on, but in a nutshell, like so strongly about finding one is, and I'm going to be so frank right now, like Instagram is not your Bible when it comes to self-care. Like
ah,
seriously,
yes.
what other people are doing, what other people are doing is not necessarily for you. Self-care is
Mm-hmm.
called self-care first for a reason, right? It's about us finding the things that are going to work for us, our bodies, our lifestyles, our pockets, our ability, our capacity, our energy. And that is
Mm-hmm.
not only going to be different from person to person, but it's also going to be different at different seasons in my life. So
Right.
even through the months, right? If we think about as women, you know, our energy is high certain times of the month, it's really low
Mm-hmm.
other times of the month. When we're
Mm-hmm.
menstruating, it's much harder for us to feel like we want to move, right? When
Mm-hmm.
we're ovulating, we're like high energy, we're
Mm.
socializing. And so even in that, you know, there's so much variation in terms of what it is that we have the capacity and the energy to do at any given time during the day, or on any given day. And so, and that is why I don't call myself a life coach. I call myself a lifestyle coach, because it really is about
Okay.
assisting people to find the things that are going to be working for their unique set of circumstances. And
Okay.
we must also not be blind to the fact that we live in a country with extremely varied income brackets, with an
Yeah.
extremely varied cultural landscape. And what's
Yeah.
working for your girl on Instagram is not necessarily what is a reality for me in my actual life, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm. I'm
Yeah,
really happy that you put it that way, because I think someone listening to that will give themselves grace for not being able to give themselves the self-care um, on their high energy days the way that they
exactly.
do it on their low energy days. Because I think we
Yeah,
start feeling bad and thinking, "Ugh, something, I'm messing things up for myself now because I don't have the strength to do it the way I did it
exactly.
then, 2 weeks ago."
Yeah,
Whereas actually understanding that times do get different, your body gets different, you feel different, you move different, and seasons are different, then you'll be okay with knowing that, okay, I can't do this at this moment, and it's okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Now, another thing I'd like to know from you, Rox, is the people around you. Going back to the fact that when we speak about suicide, we'll always say that we've seen somebody else, the signs or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Then how do you work with your community, the people around you generally, in terms of how to help the next person, or what you feel like doesn't take so much from you and your energy and capacity, but you feel has actually worked in terms of making the next person feel stronger enough to carry on with their day?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, a term and a phrase that's become, again, super popularized in wellness and mental health culture and conversation in the last few years is this concept of holding space, right? And we hear that a
Okay.
lot. We hear like the way to have effective communication and for allow how to allow others to express themselves clearly and fully is to hold space for them. But I don't always feel like we all know how to do that or what that actually means.
Mm, mm.
But that's the gold standard, right?
Okay.
When someone in our community, our family, our partners, our best friends, are seeking our emotional help, our emotional scaffolding, you know, to help hold them steady, to help build them up, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best thing for all of us to be able to give that person is the space to express exactly what they're feeling. And and
Ah.
and the reason that like this idea of holding space is so valuable is because
Yeah.
in a moment of emotional disruption for someone, in a moment where
Mm-hmm.
someone is feeling anxious, depressed, sad, angry, all of those emotions are part of the emotional spectrum, right?
Mm.
The physiological, like the thing that's happening in that moment is that, and that's why emotions exist. Emotions exist to alert us to something and for us to move through them in order to get to a solution. And and the idea of holding space for someone is to allow that person to purge that emotion and then move through it. Where we
Hmm.
often, and this is just because we're human beings and not all of us are trained
Mm-hmm.
therapists or
Mm-hmm.
counselors, right? Because we're human.
Mm.
I think where a lot of us feel not necessarily inadequate, but where we sometimes trip up when our loved ones come to us with, in a very heightened emotional disruptive state is that we want to move into solutions, right? One, we want to tell them what they should be doing.
Yes.
Two, we want to make sure that they must know that it's okay, right? So we got to tell them it's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry, right? But as soon as we are channeling them into a solution, or we are trying to motivate them through, encouragement in that particular state that they are in, what it actually does is diminishes that emotional disruption for that person. And so they are then unable to actually move through that emotion. All we're doing is helping them push it down. And that is actually more detrimental than just allowing them to rage, to cry, to vent, to, whatever it is that they need to do in that moment. And sometimes it takes a 30-minute conversation. Sometimes it takes a couple days. Sometimes it takes a couple months, right, for them to move through that. And so I think, once we're able to start learning how to really just, I like to think of it as a container. Like if you think about the term holding space, right? It's like giving the person a container, just holding that Tupperware bucket there for them to just like spew into, right? Give them the box. Let them just put it in there, right? Let them get it out. Let them release it, right? And that's really what I feel is one of the, it's like a key tenet in helping people to really move through disruptive times for themselves. I think we all can really learn a lot from the practices of therapy and counseling for the people that we love, to give them that space and that time. I also, I'm kind of rambling on here, but I think the other reason that holding space is so hard for the person who's hearing it is because when someone we love is going through a hard time, all we want to do is take that away because it's painful, right? We can see they're in pain, right? They're going through a shit time. And so what we do by trying to motivate or trying to give a solution, what we're actually doing in that space or at that particular time is we're trying to ease our own reaction to what it is that we're seeing. We are trying to make sure that we are not feeling the pain that they are feeling. And so we try and like quell that pain for them, right? No, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So you feel better for yourself too, right? And again, that's more detrimental, than it is helpful for the person. And so as the caretaker of that your relationship with that person, right? As the caretaker, if we are serious about our care for someone, allowing them to, again, release that emotion and giving them just the space to do that does more help than basically like minimizing the experience that they're having.
I can't believe you. Rox, you have a podcast, right?
Yeah.
You need to give lessons. This is I've got nothing to add on that. But oh my goodness, that is so powerful. That is so powerful. Let me move on to our last point. Because I'm going to listen to this again and I'm really going to digest it. And oh my goodness, no. You are adding this to your podcast. We need to hear this because we really don't know how to handle treating the people that we love, and it helps to learn how to do better. Okay. So last thing I wanted to know, we mentioned Instagram and how it is not going to help you when you get into your self-care moment. How do you work with making sure that your circle is a power circle, that you have people around you, your social media around you, and all of that is a circle that is actually of good influence to your mental health?
So this question is so interesting for me, right? Because I'm not sure. So another reason. So what I know for sure is, right, I don't know what the right answer is here, but what I know for sure works for me is, one, I am pretty ruthless about who I follow anyway. So whether that is
Okay.
on social media
Yeah.
or even in life or even the shows I watch, the shit that I'm consuming, reading, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it's very clear. I tend to be, like I said, ruthless about who I'm
Right.
following.
Okay.
So because we live in a world where, I mean, gosh, let's think about this. If we think about our parents at our age, or at least my age, I'm in my late 30s. If I think about the amount of information I'm exposed to versus the amount of information my mother was exposed to in her late 30s, it's chalk and cheese, right? There was no social media. They were buying magazines and watching like 3 channels, right? Literally, that was it, right? And reading the
Yes.
newspaper. We can literally get information at any time, anywhere, and because of the way digital works, and because I know this from my marketing experience, because of the way marketing works, we don't always have a choice in terms of what it is that we see. We're just getting served shit all the time.
Right.
And so,
Right.
right. So just like we, and all of us do this from time to time, we're cleaning out our cupboard from shit that we're not wearing anymore. We're cleaning
Yes.
out the fridge from expired, stuff that we can't eat. We need to be doing the same in our digital spaces. We need to be doing the same on our social media feeds. So that's one way that I keep like super focused is being very ruthless about who I am following and the information I'm seeing on social media.
Okay.
I think also personally, from a personal perspective, because my mission is to be in the helping space. I also need to protect my own mental health, right?
Right.
And so it's not healthy for me to be seeing seeing things that are going to make me trigger me or make me feel shit about myself. So I'm super, super ruthless there. And then I think, the other thing, that's something that I do. And then I think I have honestly, truly 100% just been super blessed. I have a very small circle. So just as ruthless as I am on social media, I'm also a little ruthless in real life. I have a very small circle of very close friends. And those friendships have been in existence for 2 decades in some instances. And I have a very close family unit. My partner and I have, a relationship that we know is one that takes active work on a literally minute by minute basis in some instances,
Right.
and so I really do feel like, there's a little bit of like the things that I do to maintain who and what I see. But there's also a lot of luck involved in that, right? There's a lot of just like, God knows who's meant for me and who's not meant for me. And the people who are meant for me are in my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm really happy with that. I'm really happy to hear that. I think a lot of people, especially the analogy, because I really also believe in decluttering social media. But I love the way that you put it in terms of the same way we do for our closets and our fridges. Let's do for our social media, because I think sometimes we think that because I did it in January, there's no need for me to do it in July. Whereas things are different now in July. So do it again in July. Double check if things are still the way that you need them to be and the way that you want them to be. And do that quite often. I'm really happy to have learned that today. Rox, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. I've learned so much. I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to upload this video onto YouTube as well. And I hope to get it to access a whole lot of other people. Let people follow you, because the reason why I'm also doing this is to try to show other people that there are healthy places to follow on Instagram, on social media generally. And your place is one of the healthiest. I like it.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I thank you so much. I received that appreciation. Really, it means so much to me. Thank you for inviting me into your space, for introducing me to your community. I'm so grateful. Thank you for having this conversation, for bringing it to my attention. And I know that it's going to spread, right? You're bringing it to so many people's attention. And I just thank you so much for the work you're doing. Thank you.
All right, Rox. Now have a good afternoon, and
You
we
too,
will
love.
be in communication.
Yes, we will. Cheers.
All right. Bye.
Bye.